Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, your friend, your brother, and your confidant. I am Rashid, and this is the most powerful platform, bar none, for truth anywhere on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, enlightenment, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries. Thank you all for joining me again on this platform. I really just want to take the time out and say this from the bottom of my heart to the depth of my soul. I really appreciate you giving me your time because your time means so much. And so we're going to try to give you an equal or greater payday for the time that you're giving to us, okay? Today's show is called Live. The U.S./NATO moves 2 steps closer to World War III. Now, before we get into that, I want to say a few things, okay? We're going to have a few new guests on the show coming up in a few days to a week or so like that. I've been working on that stuff behind closed doors. That's what why I haven't been on the air. We have a geopolitical analyst that is schooled and deep into China and Asia Pacific matters. I believe he's out of I could be wrong on this. I believe he's out of Korea. He could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. He'll be on the show. He's written for Asia Times, and a host and a slew of other publications. He's been on multiple platforms in the past, and he'll be on our show in the coming week or so. We're trying to work out a time because we don't know the differences in the time and all of that stuff like that. And we'll have Mike Mihalovich on the show, the man that you saw on Real Truth Talk. He'll be on the show. He is a former captain in the Serbian or the Yugoslavian army, and he was a captain in the army at the time that NATO bombed Yugoslavia into submission. Okay? He'll be on the show too. I just got a message right before we went live on the air. I just got a message from him. I was like, oh, he hit me up. Okay. So I just want to let you all know that we're working on some things behind closed doors. So if you don't see me for a few minutes, I'm still going to put out content. I'm still going to keep you up to date. But sometimes I move in silence because sometimes silence is the best way to make these things manifest. Okay. So let's go into our subject today. The U.S./NATO moves 2 steps closer to World War III. Now, we know these things, and I got to give a shout out to my guy, Joel Bradford is in the building. You know what? A shout out to you, Joel. Thank you so much for joining me today, all right, in the chat. There's so much going on. And I was reading the news, and for the last couple of days, I've been checking out the alternative media sites, platforms, and I've been checking out the mainstream media platforms. And it amazes me. It really amazes me when they talk about the situation in the Middle East, North African region, when they talk about the situation in Ukraine, and when they talk about America's pivot to China. What is so amazing about this is the level of acceptance from most of these analysts about, well, America should come to some type of agreement. Now, I want you to understand something before I go further on this. I listened to the talk, and all of them are talking about European security, okay? Here's something that you got to understand. They're talking about European security, a new European security architecture. We must end the Ukraine war for a stable and secure Europe. And that's fine and dandy, but who is destabilizing the world? It is American Europe. They're talking about a unified defense system. You have a unified defense system, and you have been using this defense system in an offensive manner against Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, and Central Asia, and Eurasia. And now it's turned inwardly and it's starting to feed upon the European nations. I mean, the level of arrogance and this stuff just it breezes past most people's heads. I was listening to one of my favorite YouTube. I don't listen to a lot of YouTube analysts, but one of my favorite YouTube analysts was talking last week, and they were talking about the need for a European security agreement with Russia, right? And it said America must come to some type of agreement, and I'm paraphrasing, okay, so that they can focus on China, right? And I'm saying to myself, hold on. So it is a foregone conclusion that you're in agreement that China is a threat? Russia is no threat. China is a threat. And how can you even make that make sense? Think about this, everybody. You know this platform. I make everybody think, right? Regardless of ethnicity, race, gender, religion, or whatever. I force you to think and to check some of these deeply held beliefs and analyze them, right? So, who has the most nuclear weapons in the world? I'm asking. Russia, right? Russia has not invaded these nations, but I'm just asking. Let's just put this on a superficial playing field for a minute. Russia has the largest nuclear arsenal in the world. So how can China be a more pressing threat? I'm asking. Okay? China is and let's call an ace and a spade. The reason that these analysts agree subconsciously, and the reason that America and Europe agree and work together in a manner, and they are pivoting toward Asia, is because China is a non-white, non-Western nation. We gotta put that out there, because hiding these facts will not yet make the truth of it go away. That's why China is a more pressing threat, number one. Number two, China is a more pressing threat because economically, it can remove and dismantle the whole Western economic financial system that has plagued and ruled the world for the last 100, 200 years. Militarily, it's a threat because now it possesses not only the largest army in the world, it now possesses, without a doubt, the largest navy in the world, and they have projected by 2025 to 2026, China will have the largest air force in the world. China is a threat because China is turning out engineers and people with doctorates and BS degrees and all of this stuff at a rate of 5 to 10 times that of the US. That is a threat. But instead of focusing on the intricacies of this and then turning inwardly and doing a self-appraisal of American intransigence and American hubris and American imperialism, Russia becomes the threat. China becomes the threat. But the fascist laws that are imposed upon America and Americans inwardly is no threat. The fleecing of the people for their tax dollars to wage unjust, illegal wars around the world, that's not a threat. The using of tax money for propaganda purposes to inundate and inculcate the masses with foolishness, that's no threat. And the dumbing down of society is no threat to America. How is that so? Only in Bizarro world. Again, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this. And my girl Holly is in the building. I see Cheese Puff in the building. I see Random Missouri in the building. Thank you all for joining me too, okay? I'm going to say this ad nauseum, okay? At the base of any progressive, successful, and enduring society, republic, or nation lies education. The educational system is the foundation for the building, the maintaining, and the progression of any society. And when you defund, dumb down, and exploit your educational system, you are laying thermite and nuclear bombs at the base of your society. This is what America has done. Instead of her doing a self-appraisal of this, Iran's the problem. Syria's the problem. Libya's the problem. North Africa's the problem. Brazil's the problem. Venezuela's the problem. Nicaragua is the problem. Right? China's the problem. Never America. North Korea's the problem. Never America, never Europe. And when we do a real appraisal and we step back, we say, well, who is the cause and what is the cause of the global conflict? What is the cause of the destabilized world today? What is the cause of the dissatisfaction, the destruction, and the exploitation of the masses of the people? It all boomerangs back to America and the Western world. The exploitive system, the exploitive policies, the greedy, corrupt, and exploitive politicians. America says that Ukraine is the most corrupt nation on earth, for the most corrupt nation in Europe, and probably on earth. And that's probably true. But when one holds a mirror up to the empire, how does these big corporations get their, they write, now remember this now, these corporations write policies, fund congressmen, give them written policies, and the congressmen, they debate over it and then put it into law. That's not corruption. When you have been elected by the masses and the masses' words don't count, the corporations count. Why? Because the congressmen are needing funding for their election campaigns. So they're paid for, they're bought and sold to and from and by the corporations. How is that not corruption to the highest degree? Huh? So when they look at Ukraine's corruption, all we have to say is mirror me back, America. Mirror me back. Look at your reflection in the mirror. So again, I'm glad everybody's in the chat. Thank you for joining me. Hey, and I'm working on one computer. I've had I'm telling you, my twins cracked the screen in one of my other computers, the one that holds most of my main stuff. But I'm looking at you on this computer, which is the newer computer. But I can make out something on this computer, and I'm looking down on my phone, so I'll still be able to do what I'm doing. I might do it a little slower, but I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to shout out to everybody that's joining me on the Red Pill Diaries, the Red Pill Journals, on YouTube, also on Rumble, also on Twitter, Twitch, and Locals. We're broadcasting on Locals right now. Odyssey. Yeah, I think those are the platforms. Thank each and every one of you all for joining me on those. Okay? And I'll check the chat and I'll check those platforms shortly, okay? But I want to get a few things off my chest because I haven't been able to talk to you guys in a few days or whatever. All right? And remember what I said. For those of you who missed the first part of the show, go back to the first part of the show. I have announced we'll have certain guests on the show in the coming days to week, okay? So, but if it's God's will. But I want you to think about this. Everybody's a threat. Everybody's against international order. Everybody is against or tyrants or regimes or dictators, right? Everybody's that. But the tyrants, the regimes, and the dictators. We look at Vandalai. I think that's what her name is. The president, isn't she like the president of the European Commission or Council? She wasn't voted in by the whole of the European Union. How is that democracy? She was appointed. Borrell. All of these people. And then, we can't say nothing about Joe Biden being president and how he became president, right? Or this platform, YouTube, will ban me and see, listen to me good. This shows you the level of corruption, right? To things. And I often say this. Truth hurts, especially the guilty. And Rashid, my co-host from time to time, he always says that when you throw a rock in the dark in the yard with dogs, you don't have to go back and see which if you hit the dog that got hit will be the one barking, right? And so when we look at the situation with the censorship in America, right, the so-called land of the free, who always holds a mirror up to everybody else, right? and always demands of them those things which she will not do. It shows you the level of degradation in American society. Hypocrisy reigns supreme. It reigns supreme. Where you can question the legitimacy of Syria's government, and you can question the legitimacy of Vladimir Putin's re-election when everybody knows he has an approval rating of roughly 80% of the population of Russia. But you can't question the legitimacy of Joe Biden. You can't question the legitimacy of Macron of France. You can't question the legitimacy of Sunak in Britain. But you can question Xi's legitimacy, Xi Jinping of China. You can question Venezuela Maduro's, even though he has 50 to 60% of the population behind him. You can question that. You can question the legitimacy of Iran, but never America. You get deplatformed, censored, banned. How is that the land of the free? How is that freedom of speech and expression? In a nation that's always screaming about freedom of speech and the freedom to be able to do this, when it comes to diversity of thought, right? Because, you know, they always talk about diversity, right? We want diversity here. Even if people are not qualified, we want diversity there. Right? But they won't allow diversity of thought, diversity of opinion. Is that not the highest form of hypocrisy? Huh? It's so many things I want to talk to you about. I wanted to rebut some of these other pundits have said. I don't have the time to do that today. Maybe I'll sit down and I'll go back and look at a couple of their interviews or their shows, and maybe I'll jot down some of the things they say, because a lot of these pundits that you listen to that are accepted now by the alternative media as the leading voices of reason, a lot of their stuff is good, but then they throw in a lot of junk with it, a lot of junk, and they know that because now you're so behind them that then they can say certain things that won't get your ire, that won't get you mad, and they say it and it goes over your head, or sometimes you catch it and you let it go for the other stuff. Okay, not me. I catch it, and I catch it all. Right. So again, as we talk about moving one step closer to war, where is it at? Let me see something real quick. There was something that came out, as a matter of fact, 9 hours ago. ABC News, and I just saw it right before the show started. All right, I saw the little news flash across my phone. I get these updates and stuff from different news places, and so I saw this. I wanted to keep it because I wanted to bring this up on the show. And ABC News is reporting. Let me put this up here real quick on the screen. Let's see if we can see this. All right. That's from ABC News. It says, France says Russian forces threaten to shoot down surveillance aircraft patrolling the Black Sea. French defense officials say Russian forces threaten to shoot down a French surveillance aircraft patrolling in international airspace over the Black Sea. Stop right there. Do you see how they framed that? See, I'm telling you, they can't get this stuff past me. I read for understanding. I don't read to say I've read it. I don't read for memorization, because memorization does not mean understanding. You can repeat something without understanding what that means. So when you look at something and you read it, ask God for understanding, okay? So that you can understand what is being said and what they are trying to convey. Because this looks like, well, Russia just threatened to shoot down a French plane. So they threatened this, right? That's what they want you to believe, right? And so they follow it up with the paragraph right up under that. It's one sentence right up under that shows you how they're framing the title. In the sentence right up under there, it says, French defense officials say Russian forces threatened to shoot down a French surveillance aircraft. Listen to this part right here, because this is right here is what most people lose focus on right here. This part right here. A French surveillance aircraft patrolling in international airspace over the Black Sea. Now, what they don't tell you in this part right here is that Russia had put out a warning to all nations to not fly drones or planes in a certain vicinity around the war zone, which is what people do when war takes place. They didn't tell you that. They didn't tell you that every time there's a bombing in the Donbass, or every time that there's a bombing on Russian territory, or a missile strike or a drone strike, U.S., French, German, or NATO surveillance drones or aircraft are in the air, and they are feeding direct intelligence to the ground forces in there, which people say Ukrainian forces. I continue to tell you those are NATO forces down there. And they are directing the gunfire, the missile fire, the artillery fire to the position that they see best fit to cause the most damage and cause the most casualties. They didn't tell you that in that part right there. So Russia did them one good, one solid, as we say. They did them a solid, because Russia should have been shooting down NATO aircraft that was flying over the Black Sea. Because every time there's a bombing in Belgorod or the surrounding Russian territories, or in the newly acquired territories of the Donbass, there are NATO warplanes, intelligence or spy planes up in the air directing the gunfire, the missile fire, the barrage of artillery fire to its destination. That's an act of war. Do you know that? According to international law, that is a direct act of war. Why didn't that article say that? Why didn't ABC put that in there? Because ABC is the mouthpiece of Western leaders and Western governments. And they will give you a particular view to influence you to come over to their side and think the way they want you to think. The dumbing down of the masses, remember? There's no alternative view in the Western world, Western perspective. And if you have or voice an alternative view in the West, you become an outlaw, a propagandist, right? Even though what you're saying is true and what they're saying is propaganda. Orwellian at its best, right? Turn the truth into the lie and the lie into the truth. If I say the lie so many times over and over again, it becomes the truth. And the truth becomes a lie. Orwell at its finest, right? For those of you who have read Orwell's book, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? Let's go a little further. It says, Russian forces threatened to shoot down a French surveillance aircraft patrolling in international airspace over the Black Sea. What's going on in the Black Sea? I'm asking you. Russia has asked warships and warplanes to stay away from that area. And listen to me good, because this is a fact that is missed by a lot of people. Even if you want to take the side of the West, this is a fact that is missed by a lot of people. What are the surveillance planes doing there? The war is not against France. Why does France have surveillance planes there? Huh? The war is not, quote unquote, against America. Why does America keep flying surveillance planes there? Because it has nothing to do with America, so-called. Remember, America and NATO says that they are not a party to the war. Then why the hell do they keep sending spy planes there? Well, we're trying to get intelligence on the situation so that it doesn't spill over. Okay, we're going to trump that lie. You have satellite. You have satellites, okay? All right, my phone is going on. Hey, I'm sorry, hold on one second. Let me mute this real quick. What is going on here? The phone, hold on one second. I'm sorry, everybody. But this is real life. All right. But anyway, you have satellites. So why would you need, if you're not a party to the war and you want intelligence or surveillance of it, why won't you use your satellites? Why must you fly surveillance planes in the region where the war is taking place? That is because you are feeding real-time intelligence to spots on the battlefield so that you can direct troop movement, artillery movement, missile movement. That's what you're doing. But the article leaves all that out. It makes France to be the victim and Russia to be the aggressor in international airspace. Why? France is nowhere near Russia. France does not border Russia. So why the hell would they have surveillance planes on Russia's borders at this time anyhow? Huh? Something nefarious is going on, and this article is trying to keep it under locks. Well, let's go further. It says, I tell you, it says, Russian forces threaten to shoot down a French surveillance aircraft patrolling in international airspace over the Black Sea. A signal of, listen to this, a signal of increasingly aggressive behavior from Moscow as its invasion of Ukraine struggles to make headway. French defense official said, well, if it struggles, why the hell you keep sending the planes over there? If Russia is losing, if Russia is struggling, then why the hell do you keep sending surveillance aircraft over there? You know? I mean, the two, they don't mesh. It's either or. Either Russia's losing and there's no need to monitor the situation, or Russia's winning and you're frightened that the winning side will get more gains. And what you're trying to do now is use real-time intelligence to form a plan so that you can feed it to the ground forces so that they can rebuff or any Russian advances or go into counteroffensive. I'm not a military man, but I know that. Huh? So listen to what it says right here. Now, again, we go back to something that I just said. Remember, we think here. If you don't want to think, you're not welcome here. I don't care if it's 200,000 of you. But here, we are forced to think. That's the problem with the world today. That's the problem with people here today. They are so lazy. They want everything spoon-fed to them. They don't want to use that gray matter up there. But we won't let cobwebs build up. No, sir. No, ma'am. No, cobwebs will not build up there. Not on this platform. You are going to use that gray matter. So it says, a signal of increasingly aggressive behavior from Moscow as its invasion of Ukraine struggles to make headway, French defense officials said Thursday. Now, it's aggressive behavior for Russia to send or to say, listen, if you keep sending these surveillance planes up here by our airspace, by the war zone, and by Russia proper, we're going to knock it out of the air. That's aggressive. But it's not aggressive for the United States, France, and Europe to send those planes to Russia's borders and to the war zone. Huh? You make that make sense. So you're not aggressive by sending warplanes, surveillance planes, close to the war zone where Russia has warned you. Listen, stay away from this area right here so that there will be no mistake and we won't shoot down these planes. Stay away from this area. If you're going to monitor the battlefield, use your high-end satellites. But don't do that because every time something takes place, your drones, your surveillance drones, and your surveillance and spy planes are somewhere near. And we know as we pick up signal intelligence that they're feeding the information in real time to the battlefield. Stop doing that. That's for Russia to warn them, that's aggressive. But for them to do it, that's not aggressive. How is that so? Only in Bizarro world. Huh? I'm asking. So it says, and we got to go to something about the French in a second too, okay? And the reason I drink this water, I told you sometimes after I take this certain medicine, it like make my mouth dry. So it says, A Russian air traffic control system threatened to shoot down French aircraft in the Black Sea when we were in a free international zone where we patrol. Okay. Is France located on the Black Sea? That's the first question that should be asked. It says, locals, we are having trouble streaming to your destination. It is possible the stream was ended or deleted. If you guys think I'm playing with you about this, I'm going to show you something about how they continue to mess with the stream. I'm going to take the picture of this, right? Let's see. Right there. All right. I'm going to show it to you. Let me enlarge it. All right. All right. Here we go. Let's see if we can make it. Right. To let you know I'm not lying to you all. This is live on the air. This just happened. And to show you something else, since we're on this. All right. Let me show you something else. Let me see if I got it real quick. So we're going to come back to this. You know I don't lose my thought. We're going to come right back to this. Let me show you something. I took this picture. And by the way, we went to sleep. We had way more subscribers. We woke up. We had 20 less, 30 less today. Okay. I just wanted to let you know that also. I was meaning to bring that up at the beginning of the show. But I want to show you something in real time. Where is it at? Give me 1 second. Since they're doing this, I have to bring it up. Where is it? Let's see. I saved it, but I'm trying to find it real quick. I screenshotted it, and I saved it because I wanted to bring it up just to let you guys see for yourselves that I'm not making this stuff up. I might have to play a clip shortly and then go and see if I can find it in my phone. But I took a picture of something, and in this picture, it's on my dashboard. YouTube admitted to under reporting my views. I got it. I actually got the picture of it. Okay. And all of that stuff. Where is it? All right. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Maybe I can put it up real quick here. Hold on 1 second, everybody. I haven't forgotten my thought. Okay. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I'm looking at my granddaughter right now. Beautiful little girl. Anyway, let's see. Is that it? Nope, that's not it. I'm gonna have to find it for you guys on here. But on there, I actually got the picture from my dashboard where they said that they have been underreporting my views. I told you guys that, and so I snapped it real quick. Okay, but again, France. See, I told you I don't forget where I'm at. That's one thing about me. When I have something to say that's very important, even if I lose thought of it right then and there, it'll come right back to me. France says this right here. A Russian air traffic control system threatened to shoot down French aircraft in the Black Sea when we were in a free international zone where we patrolled. Question should be asked. Is part of Russia located in the Black Sea? Yes. All right. Is part of Ukraine located in the Black Sea for right now? Yes. Is any part of France located or even near the Black Sea? No. So if we have that, who's the aggressor? Who is the aggressor of this? And remember that Russia launched a ballistic missile strike on a hotel that had French special forces there. They call them mercenaries. Those were French special forces, okay? There in the hotel where killed, some reports say 40, some say 60, some say upwards of 100. I know what my source says, and I'm going to keep it like that on the Patreon, okay? And I'm not going to deviate from what they told me because they've always told me the truth, and I'm going to keep it there. So Russia had called the French ambassador in Moscow, and they gave them a tongue lashing. And they told them, they presented evidence showing them that they knew that France was behind some of the bombings on Russian territory. Listen to me good. Not just in the Donbass, but in Russia proper. And they said that if France does this again, Russia would respond militarily. They told the French this. And they said they conveyed to the French that you know that this is a declaration of war, what you've done. But Vladimir Putin trying to keep it down, he didn't want to present this to the people because they would be demanding that Russia strike France. Just like if he would have told that the British special forces had a hand in attacking that bridge in Crimea, that Russia would demand a strike on Britain. So Vladimir Putin is trying to keep some of this stuff under wraps. If he was a tyrant, would he do that? He would be trying to go to war immediately, right? All right? So that's one thing. So in this, Russia had told them. So afterwards, you notice, you go back and France said, well, we didn't have special forces there. And then they flip-flopped and changed their story like a dozen times. And then they finally said, yeah, well, there were some French Foreign Legion people there on their own. We didn't send them there. Or there were some French citizens there, but we can't control them going there after flip-flopping dozens of times, right? That was because the warning from Russia. And then Macron says, we will continue to arm Ukraine and do this, and we'll hand them this, and we'll do that, right? This is what they said. This is a fallout from that. You understand? This is the fallout from that. All right? So, I want you to understand. In Bizarro world, Russia is aggressive towards NATO. Remember, NATO promised not to expand 1 inch if Russia allowed the reunification of Germany. They would not expand 1 inch, right? And now, if you look at the map, matter of fact, let me see. Should I bring the map up? Nah. It'll take too much time. But now look at it. They have gobbled up all of those, almost all of the Balkan nations that were once part of the Soviet Union. Those very nations that they said they would not encroach upon and move into. They have gobbled them up. And now they're trying to gobble up Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. This is a concerted effort by the American military establishment, by the way. The British military establishment, by the way, to encircle Russia, China, Iran, and here it is, here it is right here. Pakistan and India. India doesn't realize this. They want to encircle Iran, Pakistan, India, China, Russia, and North Korea. That's what they want to do. And they want to hold them hostage to a first strike capability by deploying radars, ballistic missile defense, and offensive missiles to these regions so that they can keep the dollar afloat under the threat of the gun. And then they can threaten them to allow Western corporations in so that they can siphon off the resources. Remember, Hillary Clinton said it's not fair that Russia has so many resources. We should take those resources. This is what Hillary Clinton says. We should take those resources. Right? What did Trump say back in the days before he ever became president? That America should take Iraq's oil and gas and take Iran's oil and gas. That's what Trump said before he ever became a presidential candidate. What happened in North Korea? Why do they keep trying to pressure North Korea? Because of that study that found that there was trillions of dollars of untapped gold, silver, precious minerals and ores, and a huge deposit of untapped, what they call rare earth minerals, to the tune of trillions of dollars. So if they collapse North Korea, they can use their proxy regime and South Korea to take over. Then China and Russia would be hemmed all the way around, and the United States could deploy their THAAD systems, right? Their ballistic missile systems, their naval forces, all the way up to China's border. I bet you some of you don't even know that the United States has Marines stationed some 5 to 10 miles off the coast of China. You don't even know that, do you? Do you? On one of the South Korean islands. I mean, excuse me, on one of the islands of Taiwan, which is a region of China. The United States has some Marines stationed there, only a few miles from the coast of China. Nobody talks about this. Is that not provocative? What if the Chinese deployed Marines to Mexico? Huh? Just saying, China says we're on a peace loving mission in Mexico, and we want to help the Mexicans bring down the drug lords, right? Right? The same drug lords that America had financed by, I want to add. The same drug lords that have all of these weapons that are U.S. made, right? What if China says, we're going to deploy a contingent of about 200 Chinese Marines to the Mexican-U.S. border? Do you think America would be happy with that? But she has a contingent of Marines in Taiwan, Chinese Taipei. So sometimes you'll hear me say Chinese Taipei, which is the name for Taiwan. That is the name for it. And in the West, they say Taiwan. So you'll hear me interchange those words when I'm describing Taiwan. I just want to let you know that. So on the one hand, America says in her policy since the 1970s that we recognize only one China, and that mainland China and Chinese Taipei are all part of this one China, right? And then on the other hand, she sails her ships through the Taiwan Strait, which is Chinese territorial waters. On the other hand, she deploys Marines to Chinese Taipei. That's not provocative. That's not aggressive. Those are not acts of war. What if the Chinese, there's a movement around the United States for some of these areas to secede from the Union, right? And I'm not advocating any of this. I'm just telling you what's the reality. And there's a movement in Texas for this, right? Because according to the deal that Texas signed with America, that if they ever wanted to, that they could have a vote and they could vote on their independence. Because remember, Texas was a sovereign nation at one time. A lot of people don't know it. Texas was a sovereign nation. So what if the Chinese say we recognize the One America policy and that Texas is one part of the United States? And then at the same time, while talking about that, the Chinese goes into the Gulf of Mexico and deploys their warships there. And then from that point, they deploy Chinese Marines to Texas. How would America feel about that? I'm asking. Because that's what she's doing. And if you don't see the arrogance, the hubris, and the hypocrisy of her policies, then you are crazy as hell. Huh? So, again, let me check the chat real quick. We're going to keep going. We got a little bit more time. Let me go to the chat because it's a lot of. All right, let's see. I always hear random Z. Flying Crocodile is in the building. My guy, Ken. What's up, Ken? Ken says, oh, yeah, let me put this up here. Ken says they call that the rule of law. So you think about that. China is aggressive on Chinese territorial waters. China is aggressive about Chinese territory. But America is not aggressive by telling the entire world we want to pivot to Asia to wage war and confront China militarily. That's not aggressive. That's not aggressive. Make that make sense. Russia is aggressive for threatening to shoot down French and NATO warplanes and intelligence planes, surveillance planes they call them, that are over the Black Sea, near Russia's border and near Russia's conflict with the West in Ukraine. Russia's aggressive. But the nations who are sending the warplanes and the surveillance planes that have no territorial or water borders with Russia or Ukraine are not aggressive by sending those things over there. Man, I'm telling you, I don't care how you try to dress this up. America and France and NATO continue to put sprinkles on body waste. And they're trying to sell it to you as ice cream. This is crazy. Right? So, again, like I said, only in bizarro world. And they do this. I'm going to tell you why America does this. I'm going to tell you why the Western propagandists do this. Because they don't respect your intelligence. They know that they have made a lazy people. They know that they have propagandized the people so much so that the people will believe anything other than reality, other than the truth, because the truth becomes so bothersome and so worrisome to the people that they want some way out of recognizing the truth, because the truth is not in their favor, so they don't want to recognize it. So they are willingly allowing the government to propagandize them into the mad policies that the government continues to push. So it's not all on the American government. It's on a lot of people who fall for that stuff. I was, like I said on one show, I was in a dentist's office. And I was talking to the hygienist, and I was talking to the person that was doing the x-rays and stuff. And they were talking, I don't see how people don't understand this, that Iran and North Korea and China and Russia, they're jealous of us, of our way of life. And we've got to protect our way of life. And they, if they just could, they would set up military bases here, and they would, and I'm listening to them. And I'm like, wow, the level of propagandization that has happened to these people. And they're saying that China is belligerent and China aggressive. And I asked when I say, does China have any military bases close to the United States? Said, no. Does Russia have any military bases close to the United States? One. In Cuba. But it's not even, it's just a little transit hub right now. They haven't even reconstituted it as a military base. It's just a transit hub for its warships that go from east to west, right? Does Iran have any military base? No. What about North Korea? No. And so they kept on talking, and I was like, I was like, hey, can I ask you a question? How many military bases does America have around the world? Oh, we have a lot. We have to do this to keep ourselves free and to keep ourselves protected. Okay, if we use your logic, what about those nations that America has made war with or threatened to make war with? Shouldn't they do the same thing? Because they're under the gun of American power. Shouldn't they set up military bases all around America? And if they do this, why do the American people get outraged? Just on rumors that the Chinese are coming up through Mexico, just through rumors that Russians are coming through Mexico or coming through Alaska. The people get up and they get, the Russians are on American soil and doing this. I see all that from the alternative media sites. And they're up and we should not allow the Chinese or the Iranians or Hezbollah to come through the southern borders in America, right? Hell, you over by Iran. You're over, but we have proof. We can see it. We can smell it. We can taste it. We can hear it. We can touch out and feel your military presence near Iran, near Lebanon, in Syria. So how is it that it's okay for that, but you're screaming about a hypothetical invasion by Hezbollah, Iran, and China through the southern borders? Huh? You're screaming about hypothetical. We're talking about reality. So this thought, this propagandize people. They're helping to push the world closer to World War III because they're allowing the government to do what they're doing. Look, when the government propagandizes you, right, and they do it and you're dumbed down, it's the government's fault. But after a while, if you can get a phone and you can use your fingers and you can do this, that means you can investigate because you don't have to go down to the library like I had to when I was a kid, right? And when I wanted to find out something, you have to go through the card catalog and do this and do that, jot down stuff and walk down the aisles of the library and pull out a book and study. You don't have to do that. Right now, in this day and age, most of this stuff is at the tip of your finger. So after a while, the government is not only responsible for that, you are. You're responsible also. Because when you want something, you go and get it. So if you want the truth, sometimes you have to sacrifice and go get that truth, even if it's from people that you don't want to hear the truth from. I was taught to recognize the truth regardless to who spoke it. Black, brown, red, white, green, purple, or orange. Truth is truth. So, on the one hand, we want to blame the government, which we should put a lot of blame on these governments. But on the other hand, we don't want any blame to fall on us. That's society today. Blame, look at, and what I tell you is that that's American policy also, to mirror me back. It's Iran's fault. It's Russia's fault. It's China's fault. It's North Korea's fault. As America uses proxies to destabilize each one of the, and listen, here's the crazy thing. And then when people tell you about it, you act shocked. Even after all of the reports, all of the think tanks, public speakers saying that our policy is to destabilize Russia. Our policy is to use Ukraine against Russia to prevent the reemergence of Russia as a superpower. That was a stated goal by Zbigniew Brzezinski, Obama's tutor, and Osama bin Laden's mentor. Huh? We forget that, right? Zbigniew Brzezinski. He said because of all of the mineral wealth over there, that they should separate Ukraine, find a way to separate Ukraine from Russia, and use Ukraine as a and I'm paraphrasing now, as a battering ram to prevent the reemergence of Russia. That's Zbigniew Brzezinski. His daughter is a co-host, I believe, on Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski. See how they recycle this through the news, through the governments, through the think tanks, through the corporations, all of that stuff. See how they go around. Anderson Cooper, once a CIA man. Wolf Blitzer, we know he worked for Mossad. He was with Israeli intelligence and worked for the U.S. government. All of these people are recycled for propaganda to push over to you something. And you let them do it hook, line, you take it hook, line, and sinker. They throw that line out there, and you bite every time. Every single time. It's amazing, isn't it? But they keep pushing the world closer and closer to war. As I was saying, let me pull up something real quick. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Oh, let me finish reading this part right here, because it's something in the article. As I told you, I never read the article. I saw it and I saved it. And it says, a French military spokesman, Colonel Pierre Godelier, said Lecornu was referring to an incident in mid-November that involved one of France's 4 giant airborne warning and control systems, the AWACS, surveillance aircraft that was flying over international waters in the Black Sea. Now, there's a war zone over the Black Sea. France, the United States, and NATO have publicly stated that they are not participants to this war, right? before we analyze that, what are AWACS used for? Huh? AWACS are used to capture signal intelligence and intelligence in a certain area and feed it back to different stations so that it can be analyzed and used in real time. Right? So why was that French AWAC there if they're not a participant or a party to the war? I'm asking. So let's go a little further. And it says, surveillance aircraft that was flying over international waters in the Black Sea. Well, what's happening in the Black Sea? There's a war going on in the Black Sea all the way up through Ukraine, right? There's a war. And Russia put out a warning to keep warplanes and warships away so that they would not be knocked down out of the air, shot down out of the air, or ships sunk in the sea by mistake. Russia had put out a warning about it. Go Google it. You can Google it. It's not that this happened out of the blue. When the special military operation started, and then as it progressed, Russia put out multiple warnings about that. And they warned, please do not send your warplanes, your intelligence aircraft, or your warships in the Black Sea or close to the Black Sea. So to me, that's a responsible power. It's saying, listen, we don't want war with you. So listen, to minimize the event of a war with you all, please do not send those there. If you're going to watch the war go on, you got people on the ground there. You got radars in Ukraine. You got listening stations in Ukraine. And you got intelligence from satellites. That should be enough since you are not a participant in the war. But if you are a participant in the war, that's when you use your AWACS. Right? Military people out there, tell me if I'm wrong. Right? So with this AWAC being used, it shows you that they are participants in the fighting that is going on in Ukraine. Regardless of their denial, the reality states otherwise. Right? Let's read a little bit more. See, I tell you, they're telling themselves. But if you just read it just for reading and not reading for understanding, you miss all these points here. So, and as I tell everybody, I was born at night, just not last night. Okay? It says, AWACS surveillance aircraft that was flying over international waters in the Black Sea. Godelier described the incident as unprecedented for French pilots in that region. Is that region near France? No. So it was unprecedented for Russia too, because it didn't happen. And so that was the time when it did happen. So that was unprecedented too, especially after Russia warned not to send those things over there. It wasn't like they did it out of the blue. They warned. That was missing in the article. And it goes further and says, and it's a quote by Godelier, through a radio exchange, it was threatened by the Russians. It was a particularly aggressive radio exchange. It's a first, right? Listen to what he just said. A particularly aggressive. What the hell do you think? He's going to be soft and passive? Hey, man. Hey, please, sir, do not send your warplanes close to the war zone. Please, sir. We really don't want them there. As the military operation is taking place, and we know that every time one of the drones or the surveillance aircraft go up, there's a bombing, artillery strike, or missile strike somewhere against Russian forces or Russian territory. What the hell do you think? Of course I'm going to be aggressive. Get your plane out of the air or we're going to knock it out of the air. Now, if you don't want to obey, then leave it up there then and see if we're playing. That's what a man would do. That's what a real woman would do. Why would I allow you to send signal intelligence back to the battlefield to endanger my troops and my nation? I'm not fighting you, supposedly. But if you're going to use that against me to kill me, then I'm going to do the best that I can to defend myself, to defend my people, to defend my nation, to defend my territory. That is the first law of nature, self-preservation. Some of you need to put that law in action. America is not the only person that has the right for self-preservation. France is not the only nation to have the right to self-preservation. African nations have that right. Latin American nations have that right. Caribbean nations have that right. Other European nations have that right. Asian nations have that right. It is not just your prerogative and your right to have that. You're not the God of the world. Yeah. I'm telling you. So again, check this out. Before I go further, let me pull up something real quick. For those who don't know, one of my twins cracked one of my computer screens. Okay, so I'm using a cracked screen. I'm using a brand new computer, and I'm using one of my phones. Okay, and I'm trying to pull up something. Hold on one second. It's gonna take a second. Give me a second, everybody. Please don't be impatient with your brother and your friend. Kiji Noi. That's Kiji, Kiji, Noh, Noi. I believe that's Korean. He is a geopolitical analyst, and he deals with Asia-specific stuff and the coming war between America and Russia. I mean, America and China, and the rise of China and the Asia-Pacific area. Okay, he'll be on the show soon. Also, he's written for Asia Times and a host of other major global publications. Okay. Also, let me go back up and see if I can pull up. I want to inform people who are just joining so they don't know. If they don't know, this will be coming up soon. Also, Scott hit me up, and so and I hit him back up. I hadn't heard back from him, but he's trying to fit me back in the schedule coming up. Okay, so I just wanted to let you all know that. And we will be having Larry back on. We'll have a few new guests on, and we'll have Mike Mihalovich. Again, I interviewed Mike with my guy Juan over at Real Truth Talk. That's my guy there. Juan, shout out to Juan. That's my guy there. Mike he was a former captain in the Yugoslavian army, in the Serbian army, and he was there when they fought NATO. Okay, they fought NATO to a standstill for 90 days almost. All right, he'll be on the show, and we'll be talking about the situation in Europe. So he'll be on the show next week. I see it down here. Next week. That's what he says. So, and my guy Greg Manarino, shout to Greg. Greg just sent me a message. All right, shout out. Shout out to my guy. Anyway, I sent Rashid the link. I guess he didn't get on. So I don't know. I've been trying to hold on, but Rashid has been telling me that when I send him the links, sometimes he doesn't get the links to the show is almost over or after the show is over. So I don't know. I sent it to his email and to his phone. Okay, so those are the tricks that they're playing with this platform. But we'll get over them anyhow. All right, now, Greg sent me that. Greg was like, Matthew, I'm gonna get with you. Matthew will be back on. I think we're going to do a premium stream with Matthew, if I'm not mistaken. And I got a premium, a Patreon stream coming up with somebody also. Also, go to Patreon. We got a new article out on the situation in China, in the United States. Good article. Check it out. Anyway, new content coming to the channel members also. I'm trying to find something for you guys. So, if I can't find it right now, it's okay. I got so many things saved for you guys that I wanted to show you all. But let me go to something real quick while I'm talking to you all. And it's hard working on this little small screen and talking to you guys. So you guys bear with me. This is what came out a few what day was it? It was February the 21st. Yesterday, and it's by Paul Craig Roberts, the former Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, right? And the title of the article, and I came up by this by mistake. I was looking for something else. And I made a mistake and scrolled and hit the thing, and it took me to that. And I was like, I don't want to see this. Let me go to something. And then I thought about it. I said, let me see what this is. And evidently, it was God showing me to read this. And so I read maybe like 3-4 paragraphs of it. And I want to turn you guys to check this out. It's on King World's News. That's kingworldsnews.com, okay? Go there. And the first article up is former U.S. Treasury Secretary Paul Craig Roberts warned 2024 will see a terrifying collapse. Now, why did I put that up there? All right? Why did I put that under there? It is because people understand that America is on borrowed time. I know if you are American, I know that you don't want to see a collapse. I know that you want America to continue on. But the reality of the situation is mathematically it's an impossibility. Not only have I said that, but you have all of these scholars, all of these former government officials, and all of these mathematicians and investors. They're doing a mathematical analysis on the situation that is now plaguing America with the high unemployment, the cultural divide, the race divide, the wealth divide. They're talking about how the government ignores the will of the people and the people are screaming at the government. They're talking about how America is waging multiple wars on her own soil against her own different segments of her population. They're talking about, they're bringing into question the elections, which I'm not, hey, YouTube, I'm just saying this, okay? So don't flag me and don't suspend me because I'm not saying that, okay? Quote unquote, I'm not saying that. And all while accumulating more debt on debt without producing anything tangible and waging global war, right? Mr. Paul Craig Roberts has this to say. And I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm just going to read a little bit of it and you can read the rest of it, okay? I told you I'd give you what I got. That's the only way to truly inform you, so that we both can have the same amount of material and we can analyze it and we can come to our own sound and logical and reasonable conclusion. I don't want to just spoon feed you my thoughts. I want you to be able to analyze the situation so that you can come up with a logical conclusion for yourself because, hey, your life is at stake. And nobody cares for my life the way I'm going to care for it. The same with you. Okay? So look, it says, today, former U.S. Treasury Secretary Paul Craig Roberts just warned that 2024 will see a terrifying collapse. Roberts warned the world is quickly moving into an Orwellian. Did I tell you about Orwell? I told you that. An Orwellian world is quickly, and it says, nightmare that will suffocate citizens, freedoms, democracies, and much more. And then it goes on and says, the ultimate collapse. Paul Craig Roberts, former U.S. Secretary. Don't let the alarmist sound of this column's title put you off. It is not a conspiracy theory. This column is a factual report as you see if you read on. Everyone needs to understand that the ruling elite in the U.S. are implementing a decision to redefine democracy in a way that eliminates democracy, makes Congress superfluous, voting pointless, and discards the Constitution as an outdated document inconsistent with the power the ruling elite intend to wield over Americans and the rest of the world. The deadly decision by the elite. The decision has been made to redefine democracy from the will of the people to protecting the sanctity of democratic institutions. Where have you heard that from? Van der Leyen, Joseph Borrell, Joe Biden, Anthony Blinken, Lloyd Austin, and many, many more. Victoria Nuland. We must protect democracy. We must protect the institutions of democracy the world over. Well, what if the world over doesn't want your democracy, your style of governance? See, here's the problem here with this intransigence of America. They go around the world masquerading as if they're trying to give the world democracy. Listen to me good. If your democracy is so great, you won't have to force feed it through the barrel of a gun, through economic sanctions and all that stuff. Because if I guarantee you this, if I go before the chat and some of the chat, let's just say Joel Bradford and Holly Holmes says, excuse me, I'm talking about UFC right now. But Holly says, and I meant to say Holly's at home, but say Joel Bradford and Holly's, they're both at home, right? And they are about to be evicted from their homes, foreclosed. And I'm not putting bad luck on you. I'm just using this as an example. So Holly and Joel, please don't get mad at me, okay? And they're in need of finances, right? And they've been seeing me on TV traveling the country, surprising people with money. They've checked my background and said, hey, this guy's a multi-millionaire. And he's doing a service to everybody by helping people out of their crisis. And I go to Holly and say, for Holly and Joel lives in the same neighborhood. And I go in their neighborhood and I say, hey, I'm going to leave this package of money right on each one of your porch. Now, they've seen what I've done. They know what I'm about. Do I have to hold a gun to their head to pick that money up to use for their well-being? No, because they've seen the example that I made, right? So if we see the example, if America and Britain and the European Union want people to follow democracy, how about they set an example for it? Without war, without divisiveness, without lies, without corruption, without dictates, without hubris and arrogance. Those are things that they just can't do. So what happens is, when the democracy doesn't work for them, they change the rules, right? To stay in power, or to put one whom they control or who they are in agreement with in power. And that's what they call democracy. And all of them are servants to corporations, not the people, but to corporations, right? And then they go around the world lecturing everybody else on what democracy should be. Well, maybe the world has seen your brand of democracy and don't want it. And remember that everybody doesn't want what you want. Everybody doesn't want to live like you live. Everybody don't want to think like you think, act like you act, walk like you walk, talk like you talk. That's what makes the world great. So when you try to impose upon me your thought, your dictates, your culture, your mannerism, your beliefs, your religion, your way of governance, and you do it through the barrel of a gun, you know I'm going to reject it. You know I'm going to reject it. Because look at what it has done to America. Look what it's doing to Europe. You want me to accept that? You're crazy as hell. The deindustrialization of America, the deindustrialization of Europe, the corruption that is running rampant, the violence that is spread across the nations, right? When I get mad at you, if you don't agree with me, then I'm gonna justify war on you because I got more power than you, because I got more economic strength than you, because I have more allies than you. That's the democracy that they're trying to impose on the world. The world doesn't want that. They're tired of that. There have been centuries of that through colonization. The world no longer wants that. They want to think for themselves, live for themselves, and do for themselves in the manner that pleases them. And maybe your form of governance does not work with them. But you don't care. You're going to bomb them anyhow, and you're going to try to impose your democracy on them. That's what you did in Iraq. That's what you're trying to do in Syria. You did it in Libya. You did it in Lebanon. You're doing it all around the world. And then you want to say that you are a freedom fighter and you are about the rule of law. Yeah, you're about the rule of law. Outlaws. That's what law you're about, being an outlaw. Look at what happens. When the UN doesn't vote in the way America and Britain want, what do? They run around the UN and use NATO. Isn't that what they did to Yugoslavia? Isn't that what they did to Iraq? And then they start saying the UN is not functioning as it should because it does not kowtow to them at that moment. It doesn't allow them to press for war at that moment. And as long as they are able to force the nations to bow, then the UN is the greatest institution on the earth. Nobody want no kind of governance like that, where you change the law at will. Nobody can be safe or sound in something like that. Nobody. And they're pushing us closer and closer and closer to war. All while a debt burden is taking them down, down, down. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? And now when you look at the Middle East, look at that. Just look at that situation over there. I'm not going to even discuss that right now. But look at that situation over there. You don't think that's going to explode into a regional war? When nations and when governments make it impossible for a peaceful revolution, then a violent revolution will follow. That's what's going on over there. There will be bloodshed and plenty of it. Because, listen to me good, and I want to say this, because this is very important, all right? I don't care if it offends anybody. I don't care, because truth is truth. And sometimes it's good to be offended, right? Because sometimes it awakens something in you, okay? So listen, in this world that is quickly changing, when we look at the situation in each region, and right now we're going to specify the Middle East, North African region, or the MENA region, everything is so out of whack. There must be a dramatic change for peace to happen, right? And people don't understand this, when dissatisfaction reaches such a high level, which it has reached over there, it makes peaceful change impossible. And when peaceful change becomes impossible, violent change becomes the answer. You understand? You know, when you have a cancer, they'll treat the cancer in a peaceful manner, as long as the cancer cooperates and does what the doctor thinks that it should do. But when the cancer no longer listens or follows the script that the doctors are used to, guess what the doctors call it? Aggressive cancer, right? And when the doctors see that it's aggressive cancer, guess what they do? They say, then we must be more aggressive on it because it's become aggressive. And we must use unorthodox methods to beat this cancer and put the body back into a sound position of livelihood. We have to relate that to politics and geopolitics and economics. It's not just isolated to that. That's what's going on right now around the world. Everything is so out of whack because of the Western way of doing things. The disregard of life. And you know, they'll say this, and I notice it. And in the West, they put property above all things. They say property, life, and this is the order: property, life, and God. And all of this other stuff. God is just a mouthpiece. They don't really mean it, because how in the hell can you say you are afraid of God and that you're living for God and that you love God and you worship God when all you do is wage war and occupy and steal and rob? That's what America's doing in Libya. That's what America's doing in Syria. Just because the news isn't reporting don't mean that they're stealing the corn, the wheat, the oil, and the gas. They're doing that at the cost of lives. So the lives are not as important as the resources. What are they doing in Ukraine? They wanted to isolate Russia, and they wanted to make the Black Sea a NATO sea so that they can siphon off the untapped oil and gas there, and then they can steal the mineral resources there. And look at the cost in life. The resources mean more than the life. So how in the hell can you say you are God-fearing and that you are godly when everything in your policy shows us that you are ungodly? I'm asking. Regardless of religion, there's no justification by these nations for waging wars like this so that you can have full spectrum dominance at the cost of what? The security of the globe. At the cost of what? The destruction of cultures, the destruction of language, the destruction of families. And families are the building block to nations. So as you destroy families, you're destroying nations. And yet you want me to believe that you're godly, that you follow Jesus. Man, if you don't get the flip out of here with that, come on, stop that. Stop it. So everything is so out of whack that the cancer, the Western cancer, has now taken the globe and shifted it. So now, listen, there's a scientific thing I got to bring to this because it goes hand in hand with what I'm saying, okay? Whenever you introduce an unnatural germ or unnatural thing into a natural environment, here's what happens. That unnatural thing will exist for a while. But being unnatural, it either has to kill the host or the host kills it or both die. So this unnatural way of governance by the Western world is killing the world. Don't you see the world close to World War III? Don't you see the aggravation and the anger and the dissatisfaction and the fatalism in the minds of the people because of the policies of the Western world? So there must be a dramatic change. And the only thing that is going to bring the dramatic change is war. I hate to say that. I don't advocate war. I'm against war when war should not be used, but I'm not against war when war should be used to correct the wrong. I'm not against it when it's like that. And all of these injustices, all of these upheavals, and the cries of the masses of the people to be allowed to live their lives the way their culture dictates, the way they are used to, which is up against the imposition of Western dictates and Western laws on them. It leads to a clash. Just like when science tells you that when an unnatural thing is introduced into a natural environment, that natural thing will have to kill the unnatural thing in order to survive, or the unnatural thing will have to kill the natural thing in order to survive, or both die. That's war. That's war. That's why the world is headed to war. That's why you see more conflicts and conflagrations. That's why you see so much disagreement. Because everybody knows that the geopolitical, the economic, the political, and the cultural situation is so out of whack. And the people who have made it so out of whack have become so arrogant and so belligerent that they must be removed from power. They're not going to step down. Look what happens in the United States. Look what happens in Great Britain. There's regurgitation. What they do, they are regurgitated. You know how a bird takes food and swallows it and it comes back. That's what they do. They regurgitate these politicians. In one administration, they're this. Then they take them out. They put the friend in. Then the next administration, they come back. The friend comes out. That the people are tired of that. The world is tired of that. So now we're moving towards a total universal change. You don't want to hear it? Close your ears. Get off the live stream. But I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. And shout out to everybody. And yeah, Nabard Combat, one of the best martial arts that you could ever be a part of, okay? All right. Somebody asked me about this, so I have to. Somebody asked me in the not in the comments, but in my email, and I forgot to address that because they asked me what was this. This is Nabard martial arts. It is a combination of grappling, modern kung fu, striking, and kicks and everything. And the beautifulness about Nabard is every block is a strike. Every strike can be a block. You know, so that's a beautiful thing. I had to say that. I answered you. Please don't get mad at me. I forgot the last time, but I didn't forget this time. Now listen, we'll see you tomorrow on the most powerful platform for truth anywhere. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining me. Hey, check this out. Hit the like and subscribe button, okay? As we go out, know that we go out the same way that we always come in, with love in our heart for each and every one of you who loves truth. I love every one of you all who loves truth, because in the end, truth is the only thing that's going to stand. But know that the love that I have for you pales in comparison to the love that my God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. I love you all who love truth. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody, and thank you. I'm out of here. Peace.